What's up, guys? Topher here from TNF Battleblog, bringing you the first of a full series of weapon reviews that we're going to present to you. The first weapon we're doing today is the Cei-Rigotti. The Rigotti is a automatic rifle that can be fired either in automatic or single shot. It does a decent amount of damage, but it does have a very slow rate of fire when it comes to automatic weapons. Just so you understand, this isn't a weapon review that I went out and got 40, 50, 60 kills on a weapon, and I'm going to sit here and rap about it like I'm the man when it comes to it. That's not the case. I did use these guns. I did use them heavily. I did focus most of my kills with two of the three. And I'm going to go over those stats. I got 277 kills with the Optical. I got 234 with the Factory, and I only got 19 kills with the Trench. The Trench's advantage here is just in hip fire. I don't do hip fire that often. I do ADS down. I try to play back a little bit when I'm a medic. And so, to me, the Trench gun really just didn't make much sense. I did want to use it. I had a hard time with it. I played probably 2 or 3 terrible games with it. It just didn't feel right for my style of play. And your results will definitely vary. So, we're going to talk about the stats of the gun to start off with. First of all 3 of these versions of the Rigotti do 43 damage. That 43 damage is within about 35 yards. Once you get beyond that 35 yards, you'll see your damage drop down to most likely about 28 past 35 yards. So that's still pretty decent, but you know, it does take a little while for the gun to run through a clip of rounds. The second up, we're going to talk about accuracy. The Optical does do have a 63 rating when it comes to accuracy. The Trench and the Factory both are at 48. The only difference between these weapons when it comes to the sights is the Optical has a old-fashioned style round cylinder that you actually peer through, and then there is a red bullet marker, so it is basically a red dot sight. But obviously back in World War I, there wasn't red dot sights, so I really feel like this was some sort of a compromise that the developers made to give us a red dot sight without actually having a red dot sight. It's definitely a cheat when it comes to the game mechanics. I really don't think that these rifles back in World War I really had a sight that would look like this. So I do think like it was a helping hand that the developers gave us, mainly guys like me, that would normally run a red dot sight to be able to run this gun, and then a couple other guns we'll talk about later. Third of all, we're going to talk about hip fire. The Optical and the Trench have a 32 hip fire rating, while the Trench has a 53 hip fire. Now, what that means is if you're not aiming down the sights, your crosshair will be a lot smaller when we're talking about the Trench gun versus the other two. Next up is control. Okay, all 3 of them have the same control rating, a 51 control rating, which is obviously very middle of the road. It's not a tremendously stable gun when firing in automatic mode. There's a whole lot of muzzle rise per round. It is pretty on sequence with the rate of fire, so you know, you pop, your muzzle goes up, comes back down as the next one's hitting. But what you'll find is if you're moving at all, your bullet pattern will be, you know, a bit crazy. So, you know, those are the base stats. The rate of fire for this weapon is 300 rounds per minute. You know, when we're talking about guns that we had in Battlefield 4 that were up in the 600 to 700 or 800 range, this is obviously a very slow firing gun. You know, the balance in the game is designed where all of the guns, you know, aren't quite as good as Battlefield 4. But the problem here is that this gun and the other only automatic firing weapon in the medic class is not terribly good. So what you end up seeing in games, especially in TDMs, is a whole lot of support running LMGs, a whole lot of assaults running the little SMGs that are over there that fire at higher rates of speed, and so you really have to play back as a medic class, and therefore there isn't a whole lot of medics in the game. And if they are in the game, they're staying back in single shot, trying to pick people off, as opposed to, boots on the ground and running as a squad and rezzing people. So that's one big thing that I hope we see improve here, is the release of more weapons that are going to strengthen the medic class, because, if everybody on the field is either support, assault, or scouts, there's nobody there to res people. So that's one thing that we need to see bettered in the game. And lastly, and I think the most damning portion of this gun is the clip size, the number of rounds, and the reload sequence. This weapon carries 10 rounds in it. You get a total of 80 rounds when you spawn. And the reload sequence, if you fire 10 rounds, is about 4.25 seconds. So you're actually loading 2 individual 5-round clips that come on a rail. So basically you watch the animation of plunging in the 5-round rail, pulling out the empty rail, throwing it aside, grabbing another 5-round rail, and inserting that. It takes seemingly forever when you're in a firefight, because you just burn through 10 rounds. And you go through those 10 rounds pretty quick when you compare it to the speed of the reload sequence. So let's say you fire off 7 rounds. The reload sequence really isn't that much faster, because you're going to put a 5-round clip in and then individually load the remaining rounds to get to 10. This is, I know it's a balancing thing, but I think they went a little bit too far here in the game. I understand realism is important, but when you're looking at games where you have 7 LMGs, 4 assaults, and then 1 scout on one team, and not one of those guys is medic, it shows you that we need to do something to better the medic class and the guns that are available. I do run medic, even with all these faults. I want to get each of these guns to 500 kills, and I'm going to do that. So if you see me in the game, I'm going to be jamming some needles and some fools. But I'd really like to see either a little bit of a buff here on the gun, or the reload sequence, or even the clip size, for crying out loud, and just to give us a fighting chance here against some of these fools running LMGs. So here's my first gun review. I think overall I would give this gun probably a 6 out of 10. It's not good enough to see a whole lot of people flocking to it to use. Remember, this is a single or a fully automatic gun, and I was playing with Chibuscus a couple nights ago, and he was like, "Whoa, did you know you could switch?" And I'm like, "Yep, I figured that out after dying like 2 or 3 times." So, check it out, play with the gun. If you do decide to use it, understand that when you first spawn in, it's going to be set to single shot, and you're going to have to adjust it to fully automatic. But try it out. Let's get more medics in these games, and let's keep on battling. And as my homeboy Ruckus says, y'all stay frosty now.